"Sign over your inheritance to your sister. She has twins," my dying grandmother whispered. "Mom and Dad already agreed." I was standing by her hospital bed, smelling antiseptic and lemon cleaner, trying not to look at the machines. My son, Danny, was in the hallway with my aunt, clutching his switch and pretending he wasn't scared. I held Grandma's hand and did what I always did in this family. "Of course, Grandma," I said, "if that's what you want." She relaxed a little. I tucked the blanket around her shoulder. I didn't argue. I never did. 3 weeks later, she was in the ground, and we were all packed into a lawyer's office that smelled like old books and coffee. My parents sat together, my sister Olya next to them with her twins on her tablet, already arguing over some game. Danny sat on the other side of me, hands folded in his lap like I'd told him before we walked in. "Be respectful. This is about Grandma." The lawyer adjusted his glasses, unfolded some papers, and started reading the will. Grandma's house, her savings, her little chunk of stock she always bragged about. "All real property and financial assets," he read, "to go to my granddaughter Olya to help support her family and her twins." My sister smiled before she could stop herself. My mom squeezed her hand. My dad nodded like a deal just closed. Then Danny leaned toward me, his voice barely a breath. "Did Grandma forget us?" He wasn't talking about money. He was 10. He meant forgot me. Before I could answer, my mother laughed, actual out-loud laughter. "Oh, honey," she told him loud enough for the whole room, "this is grown-up stuff. You'll be fine. You're not really depending on us the way the twins are." "Yeah," Olya added, eyes still on the paper in front of her. "You have your dad. You two are different." The word hung there. Different, like he was some extra, not really part of the picture. Danny sat back, face blank. That look hurt more than if he'd cried. My hands started to shake on my knees. I kept my mouth shut. I always did. The lawyer cleared his throat. "However," he said, "there's a second will, dated 1 week later." My mother gasped. My father's jaw clenched. Olya's smile twitched. Danny looked up at me again, eyes wide. That was the moment I realized 2 things at once. My son had just watched himself get erased, and for once, I wasn't going to sit there and swallow it. I'm Max, 40, long-haul truck driver out of Ohio. Divorced. 1 kid, my son Danny, 10 years old, loves maps and drawing trucks that look better than the ones I actually drive. I spend most weeks running freight between Ohio and Texas, sometimes out to California if the money's good. Sleep in my cab, shower at truck stops, drink too much gas station coffee. I've been on the road since I was 22. My parents will tell you I chose that lifestyle. What they won't say is they've been living off it for years. It started small. When I first got my CDL, my dad's transmission went out. I wired them $900 because we'd lose the car, Max. How would we get to work? A year later, their furnace died. Another $1,500. Then the roof started leaking. Just a little help till we refinance. $2,000 on my credit card. By the time I hit 30, I was sending them $400 every month without fail. Automatic transfer. I called it the peace tax in my head. My mom called it what family does. When my younger sister, Olya, got married, they couldn't quite cover the down payment on her house. I pulled $5,000 out of the emergency fund I'd been building for a down payment of my own. I told myself she had a family now. I just had a truck and a kid half-time. Then came the IVF. She's struggling so much, Max. You know how expensive it is. You of all people should understand what kids mean. They never asked if I wanted more kids. They just assumed I existed so other people's kids could be comfortable. I put $200 every paycheck into an account my mom managed for the treatments. It went on for almost a year. When the twins were born, my parents acted like they had given birth. It was all our babies and the family legacy. My son Danny got a Hot Wheels set for Christmas that year. The twins got a new playroom. When Grandma's health went downhill, it was the same pattern. My parents couldn't afford the full cost of her assisted living. My dad was semi-retired at that point, which meant he just didn't feel like working much. So I picked up extra runs, slept even less, and sent an extra $300 a month for Grandma. My mom would say, "You're such a good grandson. Grandma knows how much you do." But whenever I drove my beat-up old Silverado over on Sundays, it was the twins on my parents' laps, the twins' photos on the mantle, the twins' drawings on the fridge. Danny's art stayed folded in his backpack until we got home. Little things piled up. The cousins' trip to the water park where somehow there was no room for Danny in the hotel, but the twins' neighbor friend got invited. The family photo wall where every frame had my parents, my sister, her husband, the twins in different matching outfits, and one picture of me from high school football. No Danny, not even a school photo. The birthday party where my parents gave the twins bikes and Danny a $10 gift card so he could pick something himself because we didn't know what he liked. I should have drawn the line way before Grandma's will, but like an idiot, I kept thinking if I just keep showing up, if I keep paying, they'll eventually see Danny the way they see the twins. They didn't. Back in that lawyer's office, the second will rustled like it weighed twice as much as the first. This document, the lawyer said, revokes the previous testament. It's dated 8 days before Mrs. Novak's passing and notarized at St. Mary's. My mother sat forward. She'd already decided. We were there. She said the house was for Olya, for the twins. There's a note attached, he said. He pulled out a separate page, Grandma's handwriting, slanted, shaky, but still hers. He read it out loud. Max paid for most of my care when I was sick. I didn't know that at first. I was told the family was covering it. He drives all night and barely sees his boy, and they still ask him for more. I won't die thinking I let them use him. The house goes to Max. Half of my savings go into a trust for his son, Danny. The rest can be shared between the other grandchildren. If they don't like it, they should have paid their own bills. The room went dead silent. My mother's face went tight around the mouth. My father's jaw clenched. Olya's smile twitched. Danny looked up at me again, eyes wide. That was the moment I realized 2 things at once. My son had just watched himself get erased, and for once, I wasn't going to sit there and swallow it.
She changed her mind, the lawyer said, polite but firm. Legally, this is the operative document. Danny's hand found my arm. His fingers were cold. So, Grandma didn't forget us? He asked. I swallowed. Nobody. She didn't. My mom whipped around to look at me like I'd just stolen something right out of her purse. You promised her, she said. In the hospital, we heard. You said you'd sign it all to your sister. You said you would. Now the pieces clicked. That whisper in the hospital, the way she'd said, Mom and Dad already agreed, like they'd been in her ear for weeks. She hadn't been asking me. She'd been repeating what they fed her. My dad leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Obviously, we're going to honor your word, he said. You'll sign a quitclaim. The house and the accounts go to Olya like we agreed. You don't even have time to deal with property. You're on the road. You don't need that headache. Olya jumped in. Yeah, Max, the twins need stability. You've said yourself it's hard with Danny, coming and going. This way, the house stays in the family where it makes sense. Where it makes sense. Danny's shoulders hunched. He stared down at his sneakers, scuffed from the truck stop parking lots he walks around when he meets me on my short weeks. The lawyer cleared his throat again. Just so we're clear, he said, looking over his glasses at me, you are under no legal obligation to sign anything. This is your inheritance and your son's trust. No one can force you to transfer it. 3 pairs of eyes bore into me. My parents, my sisters. It would have been so easy to do what I always did. Nod, say, sure, whatever's best for everyone, and figure out how to make it work later. Pick up more loads, drive more miles, sleep even less. But my son was right there, the kid they never put on the wall, the kid they described as different. They have spent years spending my money, erasing my kid, and calling it family. This is what Grandma wanted, my mom insisted. The first will was the real one. She was confused after that. You know how sick she was. The lawyer slid the second will closer to me. There's nothing confused about this, he said quietly. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I picked up the pen. The next morning, I sat at my tiny kitchen table, the one I'd never changed because I was always using my money on family stuff, and opened my laptop. Danny was still asleep on the pull-out couch, clutching the old stuffed dog Grandma had given him when he was 6. The sunlight caught the fading brown fur. I logged into my banking app. First account, M&D Help. That's literally what I'd named it 3 years ago when I set up the automatic $400 monthly transfer to my parents. Next payment, scheduled for the 1st. I clicked Cancel Recurring Transfer. Confirmation screen popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this transaction? Yes. Then I opened my messages and pulled up the lawyer's email. He'd sent me a draft of the trust documents for Danny the night before. I'd read them once, then again while Danny showered. A separate account in my son's name with me as trustee until he turned 25. Grandma's savings, her stocks, enough to pay for college, a used car, maybe a down payment one day. I typed, "Go ahead and file the second will. Set up the trust exactly as we discussed. Title the house in my name for now, beneficiary Danny. My parents and sister are not to be added to any deeds or accounts." I stared at the blinking cursor for a second, then added one more line. Also, please send all future correspondence directly to me. No copies to my parents. I hit send. That was it. One decision. I wasn't their backup bank anymore. I wasn't going to sign away my kids' safety net so my parents could keep pretending only the twins counted. I closed the laptop. My heart was pounding, but the apartment felt quiet, like some constant hum had finally stopped. Danny padded into the kitchen in his socks. "Can we have pancakes, like Grandma used to make?" I pulled the scratched-up pan from the cabinet. "Yeah, we can have pancakes. And after breakfast, you want to go see Grandma's house?" His eyes lit up. "You mean ours?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Ours." They didn't take it well. Of course they didn't. The first call came that afternoon when Danny and I stood in Grandma's empty living room, dust dancing in the sunlight. My mom. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through sharp and high-pitched. "Max, what are you thinking? I talked to Mr. Lawson. He said you're filing that ridiculous second will. Your grandmother wasn't in her right mind. This isn't fair to your sister, to the twins. Call me back now so we can fix this before it's too late." I didn't call back. 10 minutes later, my sister texted, "Are you serious? You're stealing from my kids. You know Grandma wanted us to have the house. You're going to let your one kid take everything from the twins because you're bitter." I typed and erased 3 different replies before I settled on one. I'm not stealing from anyone. Grandma made her decision. I'm honoring it. I won't sign anything over. And I'm done sending money. 3 dots popped up, disappeared, popped up again. Then, "Wow, the road changed you. Or is this your ex's influence? She always hated that our family was close." I laughed out loud at that one. My ex and I barely spoke except about Danny's schedule. She had her own life now. The next day, my dad showed up in person. I was on my way out the door to meet Danny's bus when I opened it and nearly collided with him. He looked smaller somehow, older, but his eyes still had that same stubborn glint. "We need to talk," he said, walking past me into the kitchen like he still lived there. I shut the door and leaned back against it. "There's nothing to talk about," I answered. He scoffed. "You're really going through with this? You think you can just cut us off like some stranger after everything we've done for you?" The list flashed through my mind. Nights sitting on bleachers at my football games? Sure. But also, me paying their mortgage arrears, me sending cash for Grandma, me funding Olia's treatments, me picking up every tab every time. I poured myself some coffee, didn't offer him any. "I'm not cutting you off like strangers," I said. "I'm just done being your wallet."
His jaw worked. "We already put down deposits on the twins' school," he said. "We were counting on the inheritance, on you keeping your promise." "You were counting on me ignoring Grandma's actual wishes," I said, "on me siding away my son's trust because you decided the twins mattered more." He slammed his palm on the table. "This isn't about the boy," he snapped. "Danny is fine. He has 2 homes. The twins are not my responsibility," I cut in. "Danny is." He stared at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. All those years, I realized, it had never crossed his mind that I might see my kid as just as real as Olya's. He tried a different angle. "Your mother is devastated," he said. "She's telling everyone you're being manipulated, that this isn't you, that you're angry from the divorce or something." "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm tired. There's a difference." He stared at me, waiting for me to cave like I always did. I didn't. "The payments are done," I said calmly. "The inheritance stays where Grandma put it. The house is mine and Danny's. You're welcome to visit if you can treat him like your grandson. If you can't, don't come." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "So that's it?" he asked. "We're just cut off?" "Financially, yes," I said. "Emotionally, that's up to you. But I'm not going to fund a family my kid isn't part of." He left without slamming the door. That almost hurt more. 2 days later, my aunt, Grandma's younger sister, called. "Come over Saturday," she said. "Bring Danny. I made borscht the way Mama used to, and I have something for you." We went. Her house was small, cluttered, full of plants and old lace doilies. Danny immediately found a cat to befriend. She poured me tea, then slid an envelope across the table. "I found this in your grandmother's Bible," she said. "She asked me to hold on to it in case your parents acted like themselves." Inside was a letter, short, handwritten. "Max, I know they'll try to tell you what to do. They always do. I shouldn't have let them. Don't sign anything you don't want to sign. This is for you and your boy. You were the one who showed up for me when it was hard. Use it to make sure you see him more than you see the highway. Love, Baba." I read it 3 times. My aunt watched my face. "She knew, you know," she said softly, "about the money, about Danny. She didn't say much, but she saw who brought the receipts and who brought the excuses." Something in my chest unclenched that I hadn't realized was tight. All those overnight drives, all those extra shifts, all those checks. She'd seen. Danny came over, cheeks pink from playing with the cat. "Can we go to the house after this?" he asked. "I want to draw where the garden will go." I ruffled his hair. "Yeah, bud, let's go plan our garden." We moved into Grandma's house in April. I took a local route instead of long haul. Less money up front, sure, fewer miles, but I slept in a real bed most nights. I saw Danny more than just every other weekend and whatever days I could snag between runs. The trust Grandma left helped fill the gap. I didn't touch the principal. That was for Danny's future. But the cushion meant I could say no when dispatch offered me 2-week runs for great pay. My parents didn't come to help. My sister didn't drop by. The only time I saw any of them was on social media when someone tagged them at the twins' school fundraiser. They did show up in other ways. Long texts from my mom about how sad it is you've been turned against your own blood. A carefully worded email from my dad reminding me that one day we'll be gone and you'll regret choosing money over family.
A message from Olya that said, "When the twins ask why we lost Grandma's house, I'll tell them their uncle needed to prove a point." I didn't reply to any of it. Instead, that first summer, I built a fire pit in Grandma's backyard. Danny helped me haul bricks,
hands dirty, face serious. We planted tomatoes where Grandma's roses used to be. He drew a sign that said, "Baba's Garden," and taped it to the back door. In September, my aunt came over with a pot of soup and a bag of old photo albums. We sat at the rickety kitchen table, the one I now plan to keep forever, and flipped through pictures of a version of my parents I barely recognized, young, laughing, holding me as a baby. Danny found a blank space on the wall near the fridge. "Can we put our pictures here?" he asked. "Like a tree, but not like theirs." I bought a cheap corkboard and a pack of push pins. We printed out goofy selfies, pictures of Danny in his soccer uniform, a shot of us covered in paint after we fixed up the living room. I stuck up the letter from Grandma, too, folded so only her signature showed. I didn't put up a single picture of my parents, not out of spite, just because I didn't feel like pretending. The real closure came the week before Christmas. I got a group text from my cousin. "Grandma's house for Christmas this year? Your place can actually fit everyone without the twins' trampoline taking half the yard." Then another message from my aunt directly to me. "I asked your mother if she was coming. She said she doesn't recognize that house anymore." I told her that's the problem. I cleaned the house top to bottom. Danny helped me string lights along the porch, his breath puffing white in the cold air. On Christmas Eve, family trickled in. My aunt, 2 cousins, their kids, a couple of neighbors who'd known Grandma since before I was born. Everybody brought something: pierogi, cookies, plastic containers of salad. Someone put old carols on the Bluetooth speaker. Kids ran through the hallway. The house felt full in a way it hadn't in years. I set 2 extra chairs at the table, one with a small sprig of fake holly on the plate. No name tags, just space. Danny noticed. "Are those for Grandma?" he asked. "Grandma," I said, tapping one, "and whoever else figures it out." He thought about that, then nodded. We ate. We told stories about Baba, the time she burned the rolls because she was too busy yelling at the referee on TV, the way she used to slip everyone $5 bills like she was running a tiny bank out of her apron pocket. No one mentioned my parents. No one mentioned the house drama. The twins didn't come. I didn't go looking for them. After dinner, Danny disappeared into the little bedroom that used to be my uncle's. When he came back, he was holding something flat and carefully folded. "I made this at Mom's," he said, a little shy. "I was going to give it to Baba before she, I forgot to bring it to the hospital." He unfolded it. Our house, drawn in thick marker lines, smoke from the chimney, snow on the roof, 2 stick figures in front, one tall, one short, holding hands. Above them, in his careful printing, "Me and Dad's house. Thank you, Baba." My throat tightened. "Can we put it on the wall?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, voice rough. "Yeah, we can." I penned it right in the center of the corkboard. Not at the edge, not half hidden, dead center. Later, when the guests left and the dishes were piled in the sink and the house was quiet again, I stood in the doorway of Danny's room. He was asleep, one arm flung over his head, the other hand wrapped around the key to the front door I'd put on a little lanyard for him. His own key, his own house. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the outsider crashing someone else's family. My parents had their choice. They chose to see my son as different and me as a wallet. I made mine. I chose my kid. I chose the house of a woman who finally, at the end, chose me back. I chose to stop paying for a family that couldn't make room for my boy's name anywhere but the checks. Let them be shocked. Let them gossip. Let them tell their version. In my kitchen, on my wall, in my son's life, the story is simple. My grandmother left her house to the grandson who showed up. And I'm not signing that away. Not for anyone.